Hi everyone, it's your favorite Atomic Blonde here, and welcome to an actual live stream. I know I finally managed it. I did it. It was very touch and go. Hence why the show's probably is an hour earlier than it normally would be. I'd normally say either drop the video around 1 o'clock or when I've done my first few live streams, they were at 1 o'clock. Had to bring it forward. It was that or no stream at all. But I'm here because obviously for Sunday lunch and all the usual good stuff. But just to sort of say, it's the channel's first anniversary. I think my first proper video I dropped was the 31st of July, which is obviously tomorrow. But yeah, it's been a year. I cannot believe how quickly it's gone. Yeah, I'm still enjoying it. I'm still here, and just really an opportunity to say thank you to everyone that supported the channel, to my subscribers. I'm still blown away I have subscribers. I was absolutely convinced that when I started doing this, I'd just be talking to myself with my, sort of 12 subscribers that are friends and family. But it's, it's in the 80s now, which is great, and steadily growing. I'd love to have 100 by the end of the year. Fingers crossed, but just got to keep plugging away. Probably, as I say, I don't really have a lot of time to live stream. That is absolutely for the next sort of 12 months of the channel. Absolutely want to try and get some more of that in. So I love your suggestions on that, things you want me to cover. Are there people I should invite on the channel? That's number 2 when I get to grips with all of this. It's hard enough just sort of getting myself on the screen. But hopefully bringing other YouTubers would be fantastic to talk about nerdy stuff. So big shout outs to people who supported the channel. I even had a message from Daniel, the Scottish Davros, who was a big supporter of the channel right at the start. Was out there promoting me on Twitter, said thank you, Daniel, still supporting the channel. PJ at Orville Nation, I think that was one of the first live streams I ever went on when Orville came out last year. At that time, luckily, I was taking the summer off, so I was able to go on live streams in the States because I think one finished at 5 a.m. But he was, again, great support of me, gave me the confidence to do this, set up my own channel. I know he's had a few problems with his channel and Twitter, but I did see he was streaming yesterday, so welcome back, PJ. Great to see you're getting content out there again. And of course, Dan Hadley over at Type 40 / Facebook, and all the gang on there. Matt, Ian, Timescales, all the people I've streamed with on there. Chris, thank you so much for help just building my confidence in doing YouTube, getting sort of live streaming experience. And basically, I know if I ask, you guys will be here to help me. So thanks for that. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, but guys, if you can, as always, like, share, and subscribe, or leave comments. You hear all YouTubers say this, but it is actually really important. Any interactions, good or bad, do help the algorithm. It'd be great to get the channel out there and kind of grow the channel. Trying to, I guess, double the subscription. It'd be great to be on 160 something subscribers this time next year. Don't know whether that's going to happen. If I stay at this amount and I've got my core group of nerds out there to chat to, I'm happy with that too. People ask me, like, why do you YouTube? That's a good question. Yeah, why do I sit here and talk to myself? I think, like a lot of people, first of all, it was just kind of something. I wanted a hobby that I could do something with my nerdiness that I very much sort of kind of kept under wraps over the years. Like, the extent of my nerdiness, I've kind of hidden quite well. And a few of my friends who have watched the channel went, "Oh my God, I had no idea you were so nerdy." And I was like, thanks, yeah. And the older they get, the more comfortable you are in your skin. And I'm like, hell, I don't care anymore. Just, be proud of what you are. So it's that, a way to build up fellowships, communities, whatever you like to call them. Built up a good group of friends on here. And also, I think, like most people, you kind of are sitting there watching TV going, is it just me? Is it just me that doesn't get this? Is it just me that doesn't like this? Is it just me that just thinks like most TV's crap these days? And you start looking around on YouTube and you find out that you're not. And actually, you're probably the majority and not the minority, which is how you were made to feel like you just don't get it. You're just old, you're just behind the times. But so yeah, I really just wanted to start having some commentary. I mean, I like to think my subscribers think it's actually quite a positive channel. I predominantly talk about things that I like, because that's just more fun. And I like to, because there is so much bad stuff out there, I think it's really important to promote the good stuff. So I try and keep my channel to that. But obviously, if I'm reviewing something and I don't like it, I'm going to say. And there was just so much sort of veneer over really crap TV, like Doctor Who, the Chimbles and Jodie Whittaker era, that even now, I mean, there's a little bit kind of more of a hint that, yeah, it wasn't that good. But even now, there's still protection around that show. We started seeing decline in the Marvel films and the TV shows, Star Wars, and everybody's going, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I'm sitting there going, I really don't think it is. So yeah, I mean, rather than sort of shouting at the clouds and my TV screen, just going, I can't watch this abomination, I just decided to come on here and shout at my screen. Well, not ever really shout that much, and I have to say, probably the worst show that I have had to review in the last 12 months, and some of them, to be fair, I've just not reviewed for my own sanity, but has to be She-Hulk. At the time I launched the channel, I was doing the Nerdy Weekly Roundup, which Sunday Lunch replaced, or was renamed, basically, same show. And you can just see my steady decline over the period of time of my sanity trying to watch this show. It was just 20 minutes too long, and however many episodes too long. I think it was like 10 episodes or something. It was an abomination. And yeah. But then every time you think it couldn't get any worse, Disney Marvel was like, hold my beer. And to the point now, like I say, I have just given up on most Disney Lucasfilm shows now. I probably watched the first episode of Ahsoka, but after that last trailer where it's just Girl Boss City, because initially I was like, actually, that could be quite good. And then they just done the Girl Boss City trailer where I was just like, that's another strike through. But I will probably check out the first episode for you, take one for the team as always, let you know what I think. May surprise me, maybe some re-editing based on how badly the trailer went down, but remains to be seen. So anyway, thank you to everyone that has supported me. Means the world. I love doing this. I will do it for as long as I possibly can. I wish I had more time to dedicate to it and to you guys, and I could get more live streams in. I'm desperately going to try. Saying that, I think August I've got one weekend free, so probably one live stream in there. September's a bit better, and then I'm away for the whole of October. But coming back in November, run up to Christmas, I am gonna try to get some more live streams, even if they're not Sundays. I might try and do one in the week instead, maybe a Wednesday. I just need to play around with my schedule. It's just been a bit crazy. Like this week, I was away with work. I was in Amsterdam. So all good plans, all good plans, just out the window. But hey, guys, they're first world problems. So don't get me wrong. But I will try for you, I promise. So let's, as always, get into it. Let's get chatting about the shows that I am watching. And for those who watch it every week, the first one up is Hijack. So this was the penultimate episode. We were on episode 6, hour 6 of the flight from Dubai to or Abu Dhabi to London. And they did kick it up a notch, or 2 or 3. So the whole point of this hijack that we understand now was about some almost like crime bosses, I guess, are in prison, and it was all about getting them released. And obviously this sort of crime syndicate or these bosses have a lot of power sway. This is why it's so, highly organized. And this episode, like I say, I did enjoy it. And like I say, they really cranked it up. I just think some of it, like the plot points, is like it's 100% made for TV. You know, you have to completely dispel reality, because the whole nib of this episode was basically the Home Office and the Foreign Office kind of go along with releasing this prisoner from prison. Shocker, no. And you're just going, but everybody knows, every government around the world has the "we do not negotiate with terrorists" policy. You know, you negotiate with one, you open the floodgates. You know, as soon as you do it once, they go, you know, oh, all we need to do is hijack a plane and we get whatever we like. So, but then it was the whole like, well, we're going to release him, but then we're going to capture him back again. We're not really going along with it, but we'll look like we're going along with it. And as a plot point, it was just kind of stupid. You're just like, there's just no way on earth any government would do this. So it kind of took me out the show a bit, because I was just sitting there going, that would never happen. This is stupid. And then you got a foreign secretary who's a woman, who is written as this kind of, you know, she's like, oh, but we can't let any more of our citizens die, and we have to go along with whatever they want. Which I'm not sure there's any female politician who at that level would be making comments like that. They all know the policy, and when you're in these top jobs, you know, that's the hard part of the jobs. And hopefully, touch wood, no politician ever has to be put in that situation and make those tough calls. But you know, we live in a post 9/11 world. This plane would have been shot out of the sky episode 1. Let's face it. But parking all of that, if you can, the sort of nonsensibility of all of that. It's just a bit of nonsense storyline that would just never happen. But if you just kind of roll with it, okay? So again, okay, so they've agreed to let this guy out. He's all smug chops. He gets in the car, he goes, and he's sort of saying that, you know, if I see anybody follow me, if I think anything untoward's going on, someone on the plane's going to die. And off they go, and then he clocks Max Beasley's following him or something. So they take a picture of the girl that was already killed plane, and send that like they've just killed her. And they have to validate all that, and they go, yeah, she was on the plane, and she is a passenger. It's all verified. So, now we've all got to sort of step back. And as they're going to wherever they're going, there's a traffic accident and they get caught in the traffic. Then he gets all like, I told you not to stop me. This is delaying tactic. And there's a whole thing around, yes, like if we can delay as much as we can, that gives it time for the plane to land, and then we can rearrest this guy. But as this happened, it was absolute fluke. Max Beasley is sort of trying to tell him that he seems to know this criminal as well. That it's got nothing to do with them. They couldn't have put this in place in time, but he's like having none of it. So he then messages the plane to say he's got to kill somebody else. So obviously all the analysts are kind of crunching the numbers as to where this guy could possibly go, or what's his destination. They figure out that it's probably an airfield. So they sort of send a SWAT team to this airfield. The obstruction all gets cleared, but this text message has already gone through to the plane. Meanwhile, on the plane, obviously the young lad has died. The brother's kind of in a bit of sort of state of shock. So Idris's character Sam, talking to the other first class passengers, to sort of turn around and sort of say, right, you know, this is it. You know, we're probably not going to make it out of here alive. So we've got to, you know, we've just got to try and take over the plane. There's a bottle like coconut water or something like that, and Idris writes on the side of it, and it's amazing kind of handwriting like has been printed on the bottle. Time to shake things up. And they start passing this carton around, and it works its way down the plane. So you see several people working out how they can sort of, get away, whether that's a plastic bag or the seatbelt around their hands and cords from laptops and things like this, that basically, we're going to try and take over the plane. As the hijackers, or one woman won't take this water off another passenger, to the point that she literally has to say, take the bowl, to which that then draws attention from the hijackers. They then get the carton, they read what's on the side, then they all start getting, who wrote this, and being all stroppy like they have been the whole time. They blame the guy sitting next to Idris because he had a pen in his mouth, and they go to shoot him, and then Idris stands up and goes, no, it was me, and sort of says, like, so if you're going to shoot anybody, shoot me. And this is the brother who points the gun in his face, and he's all kind of short man syndrome. And one of the other passengers sort of says, like, you can't kill him. He tried to help your brother. He saved your brother, and so he backs down from killing Idris, but then he goes storming off down the plane, saying, right, I've got to kill someone. You pick. So obviously nobody's gonna volunteer, and everybody's upset. And then it's like these two women, and one's quite composed, one starts sobbing, and he makes that the next person who makes noise is basically, that's the person. This woman kind of sobs, and he's like, right, that's it, it's you. Which one of you two was it? And the composed woman actually says it was her rather than the woman who made the noise. He sort of grabs her by the hair and drags her off down the plane. So this is then the key, then, that they try and take over the plane. Idris sort of tackles the guy with the gun. One of the other passengers sticks a bag over one of the other hijackers' heads, and he's got a guy on the floor, and he's like, help me, and everybody's just sort of sitting there going, being a bit wet, really. And while all this is happening, we see another passenger, a woman, sort of middle-aged woman, gets a message on her phone. She goes into the toilet. Then she has a gun in her handbag. How they got all these guns on the plane, I'm still not sure, but anyway. So she kind of ties her hair back. She gets the gun out. While there's all this commotion happening on the plane, she just storms up the plane, walks up to the pilot, shoots him in the head dead, and then locks herself in the cabin where they fly the plane. So that would suggest that the hijackers were never going to get off, and the plane was always going to be crashed. So now they tried to take over the plane. The pilot's dead. First officer's still alive, though. And the other piece that happened was at the end of the last episode, obviously Sam's son was in his apartment when these cleaners turn up. He tries to get a message out, and he can't. So that was just about really him just sneaking around the flat trying to avoid these cleaners, and that didn't seem to really go anywhere. They kind of clocked that his wife and son don't live with him because it's a real bachelor place, so they're actually in the wrong. Because the whole point was obviously getting his wife and son hostage to make him behave on the plane, but they're at the wrong address. They're at his address, not the wife's address. But that didn't really seem to go anywhere. Maybe that'll go somewhere in the last episode. But I must admit, in terms of a cliffhanger, it was good. This inoffensive, middle-aged, overweight woman just shoots the pilot and locks herself in the cabin. So, we're all cranked up for a final episode, which is great. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff you kind of have to switch your brain off and park in this episode, that it's just kind of real how to move the story forward from plot A to plot B, because it just wouldn't happen in the real world. Oh, the other subplot that seems to be happening in this one as well. So the guy that gave the demands to the Home Secretary, he then meets with a journalist in a pub, and blackmails him, saying he's got a leak that the plane has been hijacked. And then there's something around the stock market or tanking this firm, because obviously once it's found out that the plane is hijacked, and he's implying that it's going to crash, that the airline will go bust, and the insurers that underwrite that airline will also go broke. So literally right towards the end of the episode, it all comes out over the TV that this airplane has been hijacked. Obviously the Home Office and the police squad's all died. Well, like, who the bloody hell's done that? We need to keep this under wraps. So everything's kind of converging, I think, to a good final episode. It's just too many contrivances. So it was an enjoyable episode, but just too many contrivances that you're just sitting there going, yeah, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. But anyway, let's see how it ends up. Do they crash the plane? Do they not crash the plane? Does everybody make it out alive? Probably not. So next Wednesday, final episode. I mean, we guess if there's going to be a season 2 of this that Sam does survive, but let's wait and see. So Hijack Apple on Wednesdays. Moving along. So yeah, Secret Invasion. I gave up, I think, after episode 2. I haven't even bothered watching the finale, but I just wanted to bring it up. I mean, I think it's now gone down to 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. Ouch, or oof, whichever way you want to look at it. But I was just picking out some headlines, really, because even the mainstream media, the absolute champions of Marvel, are starting to turn. You can see the headlines, from Endgame to Secret Invasion. Marvel was locked in a creative death spiral. Secret Invasion has broken unpleasant Rotten Tomatoes record. Marvel fans are trashing Secret Invasion finale episode, and it deserves it. So I think even like the real staunch like CBRs of this world and are kind of going, yeah, this really wasn't very good. And it's kind of the death now, really. If somebody as good as Samuel L. Jackson can't bring people in, can't bring anybody to the table, that just shows that brand is dead. Where Disney has just been so lazy with these franchises, these IPs, that they could just chuck out any old crap as long as it had Star Wars or Marvel written on it. People would show up. And now people aren't showing up. The normies aren't showing up. And this is where it finally makes the difference. The nerds walked away probably 2 years ago. Now the normies are going, what is this crap? And, we talked about last week, the Marvels. You need to have watched Captain Marvel, WandaVision, Miss Marvel, and Secret Invasion to have a snowflake's chance in hell of knowing what's going on in the Marvels. The only one probably most people have watched is Captain Marvel and maybe WandaVision, if they stuck with it. Nobody has watched any of these other shows. Nobody cares about these other shows. And, this kind of strike might be a gift to those rumors that obviously they might push back the Marvels along with lots of other films because the actors can't promote them. For Marvel, it's a good thing if their actors can't promote them. They need to keep their mouths stum. But it wouldn't surprise me if they end up pushing it. I mean, I think they're probably either, do we just bite the bullet, rip off the plaster, and just push it out there? Just get it done, get it out, let's get it forgotten about. And there's sort of rumors afoot that they are literally clearing the slate of everything else that's scheduled. This strike is really a bit of a gift horse in that sense, that they've got the opportunity to offload their writers, bring new writers in, scrap projects that they've already announced, just saying, hey, look, it's not viable now because we've had X amount of times with the strike, and totally going back to the drawing board. They need to get rid of all this, jump off of maybe a multiverse or they don't need to do that. I mean, let's face it, they just reboot franchises all the time with no explanation and just go, hey, yeah, that happened before, now this is happening. They don't even try and join it together. But they definitely need like a few year break, which they're going to get anyway, again, with the strikes. The longer these things go on, you're looking at 2-3 years before a film comes out. What you probably will see though is a lot cheaper films coming out, and also films with like less CGI. We might go back to some classic genres of more rom-coms and thrillers, because they're going to be quicker to turn around and get out, because you haven't got the volume of post-production that you have on these kind of films. I think James Gunn must be absolutely bricking it right now, because it absolutely, you look at the summer or what's popular at cinemas now, no superheroes in sight. Again, last week I talked about what's the projected box office for, or opening weekend for Blue Beetle, which was something like 12 to 17 million, which is abysmal. So I think people will show up for a Superman film, but boy, is it got to be good. It's got to blow our socks off good for there to be any chance of his universe working or getting people to turn up to it. Again, these strikes might help that there's going to be a 2 or 3 year break before these films start coming out, so people can recharge or watch other things. I haven't been seen Barbie or Oppenheimer. As I said, I'm not sure either of them are particularly my cup of tea. Barbie, I think I'd watch. I think both I'd watch when they come onto streaming. They're not really the sort of things I go to the cinema to watch. But regardless of whether it's your type of film or your kind of messaging, it's great to see films that aren't part of franchises or reboots or sequels. This year has really started to push through, showing that people want new content. They want new ideas. In the last 10 years, there's been hardly, I think it's like 7 original films, which is crazy. You look back at the 80s, as in the 90s, how many of these franchises was launched back then, but it was all new content. And we completely lost the ability to create something new. Previously, the movie studios were like, well, we can't take risks. We've got to have dead sets. Well, this is proof your dead sets are dead. They're not going to make you £1 billion. You need to go back to making lower budget, different genres that appeal to different types of people. And again, like I say, I haven't seen Barbie. Some people say it's woke. Some say it's just more feminist, intersectional feminism, or even second wave feminism. And I'm like, as I said before on this channel, that's okay, And I think most people will be like, and we have been saying, make your own films. There's clearly a market for it. So, and Barbie's shown that people will. I mean, maybe they weren't sure what kind of film they were getting. I think they thought it was much more of a light-hearted comedy than quite as feminist as it is. But people will turn up to, this is the world sitting. This is what this franchise is going to be, or this is what this kind of film is going to be. And you can choose to go see that kind of film if it's your cup of tea. If it's not your cup of tea, you don't go see it. The reason things are failing now, and YouTubers have been, saying this for years, is like when you keep trying to insert this into established IPs, to established characters, and make them behave to the point that we can't even recognize our characters, that's why people aren't interested. And we're saying, just make something new, stop destroying our franchises, and maybe the penny will drop. But as we know, Hollywood is stupid, and they will take completely the wrong end of the stick, the wrong messaging out of why Oppenheimer is popular, why is Barbie popular, and make completely the wrong decisions. But we can but hope that we might get more new content, new films, new ideas, because the old ones just don't work. Certainly not with modern audience messaging in there. So yeah, I think this is absolutely the death nail for Marvel as it is, the MCU. It's just, Marvel's got to come out. We've seen also Craven, which is Sony, but it's kind of sort of Spider-Universe, pushed back to August next year. It should have been October this year. Again, I think they're all kind of rethinking. I literally read something before I come on the stream, so I haven't read the detail. But the final installment of the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales, It's been put on hold indefinitely, which actually is really surprising given the success of the first 2 films. It wasn't like that franchise wasn't doing well at the cinema. So a bit surprised by that one, but they're panicking. They are panicking. And I think there's going to be the big reset in Hollywood. They've got to change their models. They've got to get good writers back. And, you know, some of these, I think, you know, the amount of streaming platforms just need to collapse and merge. You know, trying to support so much content is really diluting the quality of our products and what we're getting. And they're seeing that, and they can't afford to fund and pay the writers for the amount of content that's out there. So watch this space. It wouldn't surprise me if this strike isn't over before the end of the year. It could well rumble into next year. Nobody's budging. And all it's going to do is bring down Hollywood. And are we sad about that? Not really. And that's the thing I think Hollywood's going to realize pretty darn soon. So, yeah, bye-bye Marvel. So, yes, as ever, this happened last year as well, I think. That I kind of get to a point where my shows have finished and I'm like, oh, running out of things to review. I'm like, oh, I might have to think about doing something else. There's not really any new shows I need to talk about. And literally yesterday, I think it was, or the last couple of days, 4 shows have dropped. The Uncanny Encounter I talked about last week, so go check out last week's show. Korean drama. Season 1 is on Netflix. The episode 1 is season 2, dropped yesterday. As it's Korean, it is weekly, much to my annoyance. So it's all around these group of people, the Uncanny Encounters, who had been offered a second chance at life, effectively, working with sort of spirits from what they call Jung, which I guess is like an Asian heaven, to seek out and kill or, you know, rid the world of evil spirits that possess bad people effectively. And it was a story of the 4 counters. There's obviously lots of subplots under that. The main man, his parents were killed in a car accident when he was 11. He was in the car, but he survived and he injured his leg. And as it transpires throughout season 1, I don't want to give too much away because I really want you to go and watch this show. But it transpires that they were actually murdered. And all the sort of lives of these people, or there's sort of crossovers with it turned out his father was working with Montauk, who's the guy in the background there, who was a policeman, and they were investigating corrupt politicians. And this is how it all kind of spins out. It looks like that they were murdered. Great show. It's very like a lot of Korean dramas. It's very light-hearted in places, almost borderline stupid. But then it gets very dark, and the character development and the world building is so good in these shows that you really care. They've introduced 2 new characters in season 2, just an episode, and already you kind of got a feel for who these characters are. You care about them in 1 episode. The writing is just so like head and shoulders better than anything we get over here. It is in Korean with subtitles. This one's not been dubbed for those who don't like having to read subtitles, but I would encourage you to give it a go. The more you watch things with subtitles, the easier it kind of gets. You almost condition your brain to it. And the good thing is like I'm terrible for being on my phone and doing other things when shows are on. You know, you've got to sit down and watch it and obviously pay attention because you've got to read the subtitles. And maybe that's why I enjoy some Korean dramas more, because I actually really fully focus on what's going on. But I highly recommend this. The first season was 16 episodes. This season is 12, I believe. On Netflix, it dropped yesterday, and that will be weekly on a Saturday. Now, the other 2 shows from, I reviewed season 1 on my Nerdy Weekly Roundups last year, so go back and check those out. This is an absolute kind of horror mystery box, what the hell is going on show. Really enjoyed season 1. The whole premise of this is There's a kind of rundown little town. There's pretty much a diner and some houses, and that's it. And people traveling, they're traveling different parts of America, different roads. Then they head down a road and there's a fallen tree. They then obviously have to turn around, and then they end up in this town. So no matter where they were, they're all on different roads, different states, different parts of America, but they all end up in this town. But once you're in the town, you can't leave. And not only can you not leave, at night, these sort of spirits or creatures or demons, we don't know what they are, come to the town. And if you're outside, they will basically tear you apart. I don't know if they eat you, but you'll just find, dismembered bodies, and it's pretty graphic in that sense too. So it's kind of like a horror. So obviously the first season, a family had arrived in this town, and same as everybody, they try and leave, and they just end up coming back, and then they try to explain what's happening. Like any rational person, you're like, you lot are nuts. Are you insane? And they find out very quickly in the hard way that this is the truth. There's all kinds of weird stuff happening around the town. There's these trees that if you go into the tree, you appear somewhere else. And people are sort of seeing things, these kind of ghouls or ghosts almost in the daytime. And there's one guy called Victor who's probably, I don't know, late 50s, maybe 60, who's like the oldest resident. He was a little boy in this town when this thing first happened. He was probably like 12. So he's like PTSD, autistic, very, very closed off because of all these. He basically saw everybody murdered by these things. But he seems to obviously know more about the town than anybody else. But and he's sort of trying to protect the family's little boy, but it gets misconstrued. So I really enjoyed the first season. The second season, there was stuff on in the media that people are like, this is the scariest TV show ever made. I won't go that far. I think it's real people just, current generation, younger generation, don't mean to knock you guys, but they just can't seem to watch horror film, or they just like, oh, this is terrifying. You're like, well, no, it's interesting, and yeah, it's a bit gory and it makes you jump, but their idea of terrifying and our idea of terrifying, I think, when in the 80s, at 10 years old, you're watching Nightmare on Elm Street, and at 14, 13, 14, you're watching Hellraiser. Now that's terrifying. People are just too protected these days. But so season 2, all episodes have dropped. It's on Sky, I think it's Sci-Fi. I don't know what's on Sci-Fi Channel, but Sci-Fi Channel or Now TV. I have watched the first 3 episodes of this, and so far so good. Still more weird stuff going on. So the end of season 1, a coach arrives in this town. Obviously the coach has like got 25, 30 people on it. So obviously the first episode is them trying to convince these people that they need to get inside. There's these talismans in the houses that protect them and stop the demons coming in. But if you open a door or window and invite them in, they can get in. So if everything's locked down with talismans, you'll be fine. So again, everybody's like, you're insane, you're nuts, we're just going to get out of here. So they basically just end up shooting the tire of the coach and trying to get people inside. Now, the majority they manage to, obviously there's a handful that just don't listen, won't listen, or have very, very grisly deaths. And that helps people realize pretty darn quickly that these guys are not insane. The lead character, the sheriff, who's in the picture there, at the end of the season 1, he'd gone off to try and investigate, try and figure out where they are. They found this lighthouse, and then he ended up trapped in this kind of chimney thing. He went into a tree, and it was trapped in this chimney. Then a rope drops down. He manages to climb out, and you see this emaciated man chained to the wall. And he's like, who are you? And this guy kind of asks him to kill him because he's got a gun. And he's like, no, I'm going to help you. Again, bit of a stupid decision. He knows this place is full of like things that don't appear to be what they are. But anyway, he's a good guy, I guess. He then tries to break the chains to help get him, release him. And then the guy cuts his arm, and you sort of see these kind of like almost like slugs under the surface of his skin. These like kind of things like wiggling around under his skin. And he says, and he puts his hand, and he's like, "My blood is your blood now." And as the episode goes on, he starts seeing these things under his skin. So we don't know if it's a good or bad thing right now. Doesn't suggest that it's good, I would say, but we don't know. We don't know who this guy was. It's like we don't know where this town is. We don't know what these creatures are. Are they alive? Are they dead? We don't know. So so now you've got this sort of simulation of this busode. On this bus is the fiance of one of the characters. She's an EMT, who I guess is bisexual. So she started to get a bit close to the deputy, and he was crushing on her hard. He definitely liked her more than she liked him. She'd been very honest with him, saying that, you know, she's got a fiance out there and she loves her, but they were getting close, and I think he was hoping that something was going to happen, because, you know, they're never getting out of this blooming town. And then the fiance shows up on this bus. Obviously, the fiance is thrilled to see her, but is pissed at her at the same time. She's been missing. Why didn't she contact her and get in touch? Not realizing that once you're in this place, you can't get out. There's no contact. There's no phones. And then the behavior of these creatures kind of there's two passengers, Kelly and Brian. They managed to lock themselves into a cabin, but these creatures come and knock on the door. Stupidly, they open the door, and obviously they're able to get them. They find Kelly the next day, sitting at the base of a tree, and they've basically put like an iron bar through her head and into the tree, and she's still alive. And obviously the only way they can get her off this tree is to remove the bar and kill her. So that's a decision they have to make, and they literally, you know, pull the rod out and kill her. This is not before she explains that obviously they were dragged out, and she was forced and made to watch as they ripped her boyfriend apart, I guess. We don't see that. And then the sheriff goes on to tell one of the other residents of this town, that him and his wife used to be in the army. He served in Iraq, and he was on in a patrol car thing, and they hit an IED. Two of them were killed outright, and one of them was hit with sort of shrapnel, went right through him. And he's like literally had the boy like in his arms, and this kid died in his arms. But he said that this kid that died was called Brian Kelly. And he's like, this place is screwing with our heads, you know. So things are moving forward. There's more layers of craziness coming in. Obviously we're seeing character development with him, with this thing that's happened to him, with the deputy, and the girl he's crushing on, and her fiance turning up. A whole new batch of people. As ever with a batch of people, you've got some people who are good, some are complete arseholes that they've got to try and manage and hope they don't get anybody killed. So I'm enjoying season 2. It is definitely moving the story forward. I think my only concern with this show is what you have with any of these shows, is that at the end of it, you do get proper answers. It's not a lost situation where you just sit there going, wow, that's it, is it? And they don't wrap up all the loose ends. I hope the writer knows how this ends. He knows what this place is. He's not going to figure out as he goes along. But I'm really enjoying this show. It's it keeps you on your toes. It's just out there. It's gory. Do go check it out, and do go check out my reviews of season 1. It's all on Sky, either on the Sci-Fi Channel or on Now. All episodes, season 1 have dropped. And then Evil. So this show, excuse me, is shown on Alibi over here. So it might be one that's gone under the radar for everybody. It's on Paramount. It's actually a Paramount Plus original in America, but it's not on the Paramount channel here. Now, I'm guessing because seasons 1 and 2, we didn't have the Paramount channel when it came out, and Alibi had the contract, because there's been a bit of a gap between season 2 and 3, and I guess whether Alibi would get the rights to show it or whether it would go to the Paramount channel, I don't know. But just say, because obviously this picture here was taken, I think, from IMBD, which shows Paramount, but it is on Alibi, which if you have Sky or Virgin Media, you should have access to Alibi as part of your entertainment package. And it's also on Now TV as part of that. Seasons 1, 2, 3 are all on there as well, if you're new to this. Now, this is very much an adult show, I will say. It's almost like a religious X-Files meets Supernatural kind of shtick. It's quite a hard show to explain. Your lead characters here, you've got a priest. There's like a team of 3 people. So you've got like David, who's priest. You've got this lady who's been brought in by the Vatican. She's a psychiatrist. And then the other partner in the team is kind of science, techie, very rooted, sort of atheist guy. And their job is to go out and investigate cases that the Vatican gets to try and establish if people are really possessed. Should there be an exorcism, or is it basically just in people's heads? Hence why she's involved as a psychiatrist. So is this real? Is it supernatural, or is it just people being a bit bonkers? And there's a character called Leland in this who is kind of their nemesis, and he's a vile character. And a lot of season 1 was a kind of is it real? Are there demons? Is Leland a demon or involved with demons? Or is it kind of all in their heads that something, a bit weird is? And the more the series has gone on, there's more that these things are real and they're manipulating these lead characters. And there's like a plan for these lead characters, but we don't know what it is yet. And there's kind of a flirtation between the female lead and the priest. Because at the beginning, he was training, because he was married previously. I think she died from memory. And then he decided to become a priest. So he hadn't taken his vows in seasons 1. And there's he was sort of questioning whether to go through being a priest because he kind of was attracted to her. But she is married, but her husband is kind of working in Nepal. He's hardly ever there. They've got 4 daughters who are immensely annoying. So there's this attraction between them, but they never act on it. And then by season 3, he has become a priest. So yeah, I mean, it's quite a difficult show to explain, but I really enjoy this show. It's completely out there. But, the kind of things that they're tackling, it's really what this underlying story is about. It's like, why are they interested in this family, this woman and her children? Her mum's an absolute psychopath. It's quite a famous actress, actually. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. But the cast you will recognise. And yeah, it's just something very, very different. Something you haven't really seen on TV before. The writing's good. The way it moves on, I think it's about 10 episodes a season, so it's just nicely paced. And something like, can you believe what you're seeing? The last episode was that they were doing these experiments that showed that when you died, that you lose so many kilograms, and they're like trying to discover whether, and obviously the Vatican has sanctioned this, is that your soul leaving the body, and that's why you weigh less once you at the moment of death than when you're alive. So there's lots of things like that they kind of question, and then you kind of got the scientific guy who comes up with lots of reasons why these things might happen, but he's sort of having a bit of a crisis of working in this world, sort of losing his sort of purpose of it, really. He's just like seeing so many weird stuff that he just can't explain, that he's actually kind of doing his head in a bit. And he's got a great relationship with his sister, who comes in and who does believe in God. I think that she's Muslim, but or they're Muslim. But again, that kind of cultural juxta. I mean, she's very modern Muslim. Obviously, she's got a job and all those kind of things. And but again, she's always kicking him up the backside, and it's like she's religious, he's not. But really, so sort of supportive, and it's kind of like this dynamic between the friendships. And yeah, and are they? Why are these three sort of at the center of this sort of plan to do with, you know, is it Satan? Is it the devil? Is it something else? And this Leland guy, who's just such a creep, he just makes your skin crawl, who actually started dating her mother and done some very questionable things to her. And like I say, she's a complete psychopath, who knows that Leland's trying to do something to her daughter, but she, you know, she seems okay with this, and she sort of seems to be into voodoo. It's a very bizarre but entertaining show. If you like your kind of supernatural, The Exorcist, religious type questioning shows, like, you know, definitely give it a watch. Let me know what you think. There's nothing else like it on TV, and I think that's why I like this show. It's just really out there. And everybody, like the lead, she's not very likable at times. She's very selfish. She murders someone in season 2. She's like all over the place. But you know, she's sort of on the borderline of being possessed. So she just starts getting dressed up and going out and pulling guys and shagging them. And like I say, she's married. Then she goes home, pretends to like be mum to her 4 daughters. It's a very, very questionable behaviour in this show. But that's kind of why I like it. You know, there's nothing modern sensibilities about this show whatsoever. So go check it out. I'd love to know what you think. Leave a message in the comments. Do you think this show is stupid? There is a little bit of, but I really enjoy it just for something so different. And then kind of talking about religious shows, but completely opposite end of the spectrum. This kind of caught me unawares. I didn't realize this was dropping yesterday. Good Omens 2. Now, obviously, this Good Omens was based on a book by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Very good book. I do recommend it. Do go read it. Better than the TV series, like most things are. And the premise of Good Omens, and hence why it's called Good Omens, in case if you don't know, was kind of a parody or homage to The Omen. So obviously in The Omen, a child is, or you have a rich, wealthy politician and his wife. He's the ambassador to Italy. He's in Rome. His wife is Gregory Peck and Lee Remick. His wife is pregnant. She's had several miscarriages in the past. This is the first pregnancy that's got to full term. It gets there. He's told that the baby died, but another baby's been born. They could swap the baby out. She'd be none the wiser because it would absolutely destroy her if she loses this baby. He agrees to that. And as we all know, this turns out to be the Antichrist. But obviously, Damien is surrounded by Satanists and people guiding him to become the Antichrist. So the kind of premise of Good Omens was, if you were just, you know, they rather than, so Crowley, rather than taking the baby to the influential American politician, he just gives it to a normal British couple, mum and dad. And he just grows up a normal kid in England, not surrounded by evil people trying to guide him into being, you know, the ultimate weapon. So it's kind of like a nature nurture story, really, at the end of the day. So if you were just brought up with a normal mum and dad with just normal tendencies and without people putting kind of evil in your mind, would you actually grow up to be evil? Even though you are technically the Antichrist, would you grow up and destroy the world? And it's a bit like, rather than having a Rottweiler, he has a Jack Russell, things like that. It's very, very funny book. and actually season 1 was pretty good. It's pretty decent. There was Jack Whitehall in there, obviously David Tennant, Michael Sheen, great partnership. Obviously, if you watch their staged as well, there's obviously a friendship behind that, and that chemistry really comes through. So the whole process, so when they said they were going to do a season 2, I think everybody was quite surprised in the sense that there is no book 2. As we know, tragically, we lost Terry Pratchett to Alzheimer's a few years back. Absolute loss to, novels and writing. His imagination, his world's, fantastic. There's been a number of adaptations on TV over the years, some better than others. So apparently Neil Gaiman said, because I was quite worried, I have to say, when Neil Gaiman was said he was going to do a season 2 on this, because Neil Gaiman's writing's a bit hit and miss, I find, and his most recent writing questionable, shall we say. So I was a bit like, oh gosh, is he going to take this and kind of go off a cliff with it? So season 2, the point was, he said that him and Terry had come up with a concept for a sequel for a book 2, and this season 2 is very heavily influenced by that concept that they came up with, but they never got to obviously complete the project. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm sure it is. But that gave me a little bit like, if there's a bit of Terry Pratchett influence in this, maybe it'll be okay. So I've watched the first sort of few episodes. It's okay. Very much in the vein of the first one. I think you really feel the Neil Gaiman influence, or it's much heavier leaning into Neil Gaiman concepts and views of things. It's not quite got that light-hearted or almost innocence that Terry Pratchett brings to thing, that kind of humor on 2 levels. It's not saying it's not funny. I mean, there's just, I feel like there's just something that Pratchettness, if that's a thing, is just kind of missing from season 2. It's not awful, it's not bad. There's a few things though, it just screams Neil Gaiman rather than a partnership on this. I'm not sure how it's going to land. I'm sure it'll probably do well. Just a hi, Mr. Ian. Can't get behind this one. Didn't like season 1. Yeah, I get that. The book is 1,000 times better. The book I read, probably when I was in my teens. Really enjoyed it. I think my brother bought it, and I was a big fan of The Omen, shocker, and said, read this, and I really enjoyed the book. I think David Tennant and Michael Sheen absolutely steal the show. They saved the series. If other actors were in it, I'm not sure season 1 would have done as well as it did. I did enjoy season 1, but it wasn't a patch on the book. And again, maybe that's because Terry Pratchett wasn't around to be involved in the adaptations. I don't know. But I hear you, Ian. So, and I think the fact as well, like I say, this kind of just, I didn't even know this was dropping. It's just literally, I scrolling through the channels as you do, and was like, oh, season 2's on. So there definitely doesn't need to be as much around this. I haven't seen it massively promoted. Certainly not as big noise as season 1. Again, love to know your thoughts. Has anybody watched this yet? Do you agree with me? Are you absolutely loving it? Like I say, it's, in terms of producing and how it's done, it's great. You can't fault it from that point of view. For me, it's just missing that Terry Pratchettness, if that's the thing. But hey, check it out. I will watch all the episodes. I'll let you know once I've watched it all what I think. But so far. And lastly, I've been wanging on about Dune 2 last week. So it was just really interesting because I was talking about possible delays last week because of the strike. There was a lot of rumors flying around whether Dune would be delayed, which obviously I was like, No, it's one film I'm really looking forward to this year. Again, another one of Ian's favourites. Not. Yeah, so the CEO of IMAX has come out and said it's not true. It's absolutely going ahead. I mean, obviously they must have all the bookings. I think it must be a pretty bold statement, or there's such an ironclad kind of contract that they're locked in that, you know, someone from IMAX and not the studios is really confident and come out here and said, yeah, it's definitely happening even. So, I mean, also, I don't know if anybody obviously watched Nerdrotic. He was at Comic-Con last weekend. He was saying he was talking to an FX person who's working on Dune at the moment and talking a lot of behind the scenes kind of thing. He made no reference to this being delayed. And Nerdrotic was like, Gary was like, I think he would have said something if it was. So I think certainly everybody at the moment is full steam ahead. It's coming out in November. And as I said earlier, and I will continue to say, it's probably not a bad thing if these actors aren't going out promoting their films. Rebecca Ferguson, who I really like as an actress, was insufferable when she was promoting Dune Part 1, going on about, you know, how they hadn't gone far enough with tearing down the patriarchy in the first book, which you'd only read half of and not the series, so don't even start me. So, yeah, I think the less the actors can open their mouths and promote these films, more chance of success, I would say. So, you know, and again, if it looks like, you know, we're not going to get any new films in the cinemas for the next 2 years, I imagine people will turn out to see these films because it's going to be the last ones we get. I'd be interested to see what happens over the next couple of years. I mean, obviously, we've already seen a number of anniversaries of films coming up. I think we might just get old films, you know, maybe put into IMAX or 4K re-releases, you know, 40th anniversary, 45th anniversary, 50th anniversary of stuff to try and entice people to come out and watch things at the cinema if there's no new content. And to be fair, it'd be really interesting to see how they perform. If you could get more people, or if the numbers were really good for like old films in cinemas, you know, parents take that. My mum took me to go see this, or my dad took me to go see this, and I'm taking you. It'd be great to see how they perform in comparison to modern movies, just to, you know, we've all got opinions that old films are a lot better, well, you know, certainly much better written than the rubbish we're getting right now, to see how they perform at the modern box office. Who knows? I mean, they've got to do something. These poor, you know, cinemas are just starting to bounce back from COVID lockdowns, and you know, Hollywood has just set a match to them all. So watch this space. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to lose cinemas once and for all? Is this just going to kill everything? Who knows? Who knows? Oh, what's Mr. Diaz saying about my beloved Dune? The first one was slow, and I didn't read the book, so I just watched it like a movie, and it was so slow. Then the movie started at the end of the film, and it ended. Well, yeah, I get that. The second half of the book is a lot more action. So the second movie, I think, will be maybe more up your street. I don't know, but a lot more happens in the second half of the book. So I imagine the pacing should be a lot better for you if it's adapted, obviously, as like for like as the first part was. So I think much more enjoyable for a lot of people who had issues with the pacing of the first film. Again, it was very, I think if you're, you know, you've read the books, and he kept most of the book in there. There's a few things that have been changed or taken out, which I get. But I think because he's trying to tell such true version of the book, I get why some people without that reference would find it a bit hard going, shall we say. I mean, I'd be interested to see how long the second part is. I think I heard rumors it was like over 3 hours. It needs to be shorter than that, I would say. You could definitely condense more of the second half of the book and turn it much more into an action type film, action sci-fi kind of film. But we'll see. Let's hope he doesn't get overindulgent, as we've seen with Mr. Nolan and others. So yeah, wow, that's it, guys. That's everything I want you to talk about. Again, thank you to everybody that supports the channel, supports me, and those who invite me on, like Dan and all the people I mentioned at the start of the stream. Shout out to Ian, as always. Thanks, Rebecca Gold. Hope the filming's going well. Still liking everything on Instagram. Looks great. Can't wait to see Rebecca Gold season. Is it part 2, season 2? Who knows? But I'm sure it's going to be great. So, everybody, have a great week. I will be back next week as always. Unfortunately, as I said, pretty much every weekend in August I've got something on bar one, so it probably will be a recorded show next week. Sorry, as I'm away all weekend, but I will try and get some live streams in as often as I can. Certainly September's looking better, and I'm still toying around with doing something midweek as well, so I'm going to try and get that off the ground. I'll be looking at doing another Atomic Reads soon, and let you know what else I've been reading or what authors I really like and genres. I'm going to try and do a mix up of genres as well. It won't all just be sci-fi novels. Do we please know? No end to her geekiness. So anyway, as I say, have a great week. Take care, and I will see you all soon.